Remember the old Polaroid days? Yeah, all right. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act, you know what's it's about making jobs grow in this economy. It's about middle-class incomes going higher. This is about giving people the ability to make ends meet and to plan for the future. I'm so excited that we're on the cusp of this great accomplishment. And if Congress acts by Christmas, people are going to see gains very soon. As the president announced yesterday, if tax reform passes, taxpayers will see more money in their paychecks beginning in February. Withholding tables will reflect that. The IRS is already taking steps to prepare new withholding tables for 2018 based upon this legislation. This tax cut will mean less of a paycheck going to Washington and more to the hard-working person who earned it. Again, that's the whole purpose of this bill. Bigger paychecks for the people working hard to provide for their families. This is real relief. In addition to the course that this relief gives people a simpler system and a fairer tax code. That is what this accomplishes. Second, the Appropriations Committee has introduced a continuing resolution that addresses critical national priorities. As you know, the People's House here passed all 12 appropriation bills on time and ahead of the fiscal year deadline. It remains our goal to see all 12 become law. For now, at a time when we face threats around the globe, we believe it's vitally important that we fund our national defense. We want to make sure that the resources are in place to continue the important work to rebuild our military. As you all know, this is one of our high priorities of this term, is to rebuild our military. This bill helps do that. We're also acting to extend the Children's Health Insurance Program. You may recall last month, I think it was November the 3rd, the House passed a fully funded extension to protect the 9 million children covered under CHIP. That bill is H.R. 3922, the Championing Healthy Kids Act. Unfortunately, an overwhelming majority of House Democrats voted against that extension of CHIP funding. Care for children in need should always go beyond party lines. So I certainly hope both parties will come together to make sure that we extend CHIP funding now. Questions? Casey.
Mr. Speaker, Congressman Blake Farenthold has said he won't run for re-election next year. Do you think he should step down now?
Look, I had a couple conversations with Blake Farenthold yesterday. I think he's making the right decision to retire. There are new stories that are very disconcerting. Unacceptable behavior has been alleged in those stories, and I think he's made the right decision that he's going to be leaving Congress. And that reflects some of the conversations we had. Rachel.
Just to follow up on Mr. Farenthold. After he had settled his lawsuit, he brought in, after there were continued complaints, and this has been reported, an outside investigator to see if there was sexual harassment going on in the office. The Office of Compliance actually recommended and helped find him that outside investigator. I'm wondering, do you know by chance how much taxpayer money is used for these outside investigators?
This is the first I've even heard that, so I don't know.
Do you think it should be made public how much of that?
I've never even heard this before. He is under Ethics Committee investigation right now. And so I would refer you to Susan Brooks about the nature of that Ethics Committee investigation. What the Ethics Committee typically does is they don't report on where they are, but he is under an Ethics Committee investigation right now, as he should be. Chad.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. For a long time, this has gone on for decades. Their members of Congress have slept in their offices. You have slept in your office for years. Members, show this as a sign of fiscal frugality.
It's more of a convenience thing, but yeah.
But in this climate of sexual harassment and people prowling around from their offices to the House gym and their civvies and so on, should members of Congress be allowed to sleep in their offices? Considering this climate, is this a time and place? And would you set the example, Mr. Speaker?
Yeah, I don't see the point. We sleep in our offices because we work till about midnight, and we get up early in the morning. It actually is a convenience factor. We don't see our staffs. I never see my staff when I return back to my office. I go from the Capitol to the office, so it's not that we're seeing our staff in the evening when we're sleeping in our offices. It's simply a factor of convenience, and that, to me, makes a lot of sense because I live in Janesville, Wisconsin. I don't live here in Washington, D.C. If I'm not here voting and working, I'm at home with my family and constituents. So this is simply a convenience factor, and I don't see how it's connected to anything else. Let me go to Kristen.
Do you anticipate being able to reach a budget caps deal before you leave this month?
I would like to see that happen. I don't know the answer to that question. When the Democrats pulled out of these talks, that cost us weeks. So we'll see where we can land, but it would be my preference to get an agreement sooner rather than later.
The appropriators seem to be very close to coming together on a supplemental
Yeah.
to provide aid to Puerto Rico and Texas. Do you anticipate
And
that
Florida
coming
and
to a
Louisiana
vote
and other
next
places.
week?
Say that again?
Do you anticipate a vote on that, or are you?
I do.
holding it back to some-
Our members very much want to see an agreement on a disaster supplemental before we leave. So that is something we're working toward. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There seems to be some discussion underway as to which chamber would go first on tax reform. Can you clarify what you believe will happen?
I don't know the answer to that question. There is discussion about this. It's all about timing and managing absences in the Senate. So we're basically being flexible for the majority leader. I've talked to Mitch a couple of times about this. We're simply being flexible to honor their concerns about managing their schedule and some possible absences.
How concerned are you about Senator McCain and the health of Senator McCain and Cochrane?
I'll refer you to Senator McConnell. Yeah.
I don't know if you have your postcard with you.
You know-
but, can you?
You got one?
All right. Is this
No,
gonna
I've
be
got a
the
memo on
postcard-
appropriations in my pocket. Yeah.
Is this going to be the postcard that taxpayers will use to file their taxes, assuming the tax bill passes, come April 15th, and then also
Well,
considering
April 15th is for the last year. This is a tax code for the next year.
for the next tax year, and then considering the sweeping nature of the changes in the bill, do you envision any portions of it delaying taking effect, any of them not taking effect in 2018?
Oh, you'll see a lot of different. You'll see. Oh, sure. I mean, people who cover tax bills. Andy knows this stuff. You'll see lots of different dates in this tax bill. For instance, depreciation schedules will be effective September 27th. Sorry, let's get a kick out of that. You'll see depreciation schedules go in effect, I think, September 27th, 2017. Why? Because that's when the framework came out and we announced that depreciation, the full expensing schedule. What we did not want to do is stop investments from occurring. So there are going to be 2017 dates. There'll be 2018 dates. There'll be later dates. That's just how all tax laws work.
Last question. Mr. Speaker, were you aware of the so-called congressional hush funds used to settle these sexual harassment
No.
settlements? And
It's not a fund, by the way. It's. I was not aware of these things, didn't know about it, but we've all learned quite a bit more since then. And there's not like a fund of money set aside. It's just when claims are made, claims get paid. Some of it's for anthrax. I remember I was out of my office for, I don't know, something like a month when we had the anthrax letters that came to Congress. We were down at the GAO. We were out of Longworth. So there were anthrax claims. There were asbestos claims. There were slip and fall claims. So there are lots of different kinds of claims that occur and then payments get made. But we did not know the nature of this beforehand. I'll give you one more.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Two questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
On tax.
yeah, dynamic scoring. Yeah, dynamic questioning.
Yeah. Okay. On tax, we know the polling has shown that it's not particularly popular, and even among Republican voters, there's some skepticism. What do you think? What do you think is the reason for that, and do you think it will change? And then, secondly, I was just wondering if you could look ahead briefly to next year. You've talked about entitlement reform.
Yeah.
I know conservatives have said that they feel they have an agreement from you that there will be some discussion of entitlement reform.
Part of our agenda, right?
What are we going to see on
Yeah.
spending
So
entitlement?
first off, if you look at the polling that was done in Ronald Reagan's signature 1986 tax reform, something like a month before it passed, 18% of the people polled thought they were going to benefit from it. So this is the nature of the debate on things this big, like tax reform. You've got pundits and spinsters and all of this, spinmeisters out there, confusing the public. And so that's what I think is happening here with tax reform, like you see with any large piece of legislation. What comforts me greatly is the fact that the results are going to produce fantastic results that will improve the lives of hardworking taxpayers in this country. I'm convinced that this is going to help repatriate capital. I'm convinced this is going to launch more investment in businesses and workers. I'm convinced this is going to give bigger paychecks, a simpler system. Just doubling the standard deduction means 9 out of 10 people can, I wish I had it with me, 9 out of 10 people can fill their taxes on a form like a postcard. So the results are going to be what sells this bill, not the confusion before it passes. On entitlement reform, I've long said there are two things you've got to do to get this debt under control. Reform the entitlement programs, which are on autopilot, grow the economy. We had 3 reconciliation packages prepared for this Congress. The first one, which the House passed on health care, didn't pass the Senate. The second one, which we're in right now, was about getting the economy growing, doing tax reform. We're on the cusp of delivering that. The third one, the one next year, is back to very important entitlement reforms. And one of the important entitlement reforms we see that is necessary is get us out of this poverty trap where we're actually trapping people in poverty, disincentivizing work. You know, we've been talking about tax rates all over the place. You know, the corporations pay this tax, the small businesses pay this. You know who basically pays the highest tax rate in America? It's a single mom with 2 kids getting $24,000 in benefits who will lose 80 cents on the dollar if she goes and takes a job. That is a problem. We are trapping people in lives of dependency and poverty, and they're making rational decisions. So let's fix that. Let's change our welfare laws so we push and pull people out of poverty into the workforce. And the great thing about tax reform coming right now is we're going to be able to create the kind of an economy that produces good family-supporting jobs, higher wages, that will be there for people who are stuck in poverty and welfare to go to. And so next year is going to be the year where we work on people. Next year is the year where we work on getting people where they need to get in life, a better job, an actual career, closing the skills gap. You know, if you take a look at the economy, I know I'm riffing here, but this is something I feel very strongly about. There's 3 things we're trying to do right now to get this economy humming, to reach its potential. Fix the regulatory problem. We have been just slamming businesses over the last 8 years with the Obama regulatory state. That is a massive hidden cost of doing business. It's a huge hidden tax. We're making great progress on that. Reform the tax code so we can get faster economic growth, more jobs, higher wages, bigger paychecks. We're in the middle of doing that. People. This is going to be the new economic challenge for America. People. Baby boomers are retiring. I did my part, but you know, we need to have higher birth rates in this country. Meaning, baby boomers are retiring, and we have fewer people following them in the workforce. We have something like a 90% increase in the retirement population in America, but only a 19% increase in the working population in America. So what do we have to do? Be smarter, more efficient, more technology, still going to need more people. And when we have tens of millions of people right here in this country falling short of their potential, not working, not looking for a job, or not in school getting a skill to get a job, that's a problem. So that's why we need to tackle these things. Next year, we want to take on criminal justice reform. We want to take on skills, you know, getting people the skills they need to get the jobs they want, career and technical career education, and welfare reform. So those are the kinds of entitlement reforms that we're talking about. The last point I'll say is Obamacare is collapsing and failing. So we won't be able to ignore that problem. So we're going to have to revisit the problem of a healthcare marketplace that is collapsing, and that is something that we're just going to have to get on to. So thank you very much, everybody.
You're not quitting anytime soon?
I'm not.
Settle.